What's up, guys? So today I wanted to do kind of like the wrap up of the comparison. So we had the S24 Plus here and we were comparing it to the S23, 22 and 21. And if you guys do want me to pick up an S20 Plus, be sure to let me know. Only reason I didn't pick it up is because it's the same price as the S21 Plus, and this phone is going to get Android 15, and overall it's just a little bit newer if you're going to be in the buying a phone in the old flagship marketplace here, but I can pick that up and we can do like a a more fuller comparison. We probably bring all the Plus models on, the S10 Plus, S20 Plus, S9 Plus. We can go even as far back, but let's go ahead and talk about this, since this is the I guess most relevant of the Plus series here. I've always been a big fan of this series, and what I've liked about it is that the shape of the phones have always been a lot more comfortable than Samsung's Ultra series, and they've been a little bit cheaper as well too. So that's really nice. So you don't have to shell out a ridiculous amount of cash, especially if you're not going to be using the S Pen. I want to discuss the design of these phones here. So it has largely not changed at all. Pretty much they just pretty much cut the camera cutout. They just pretty much removed it, and now we're left with this, and it does give it, I guess, a more cleaner look here, but it's largely stayed the same. The design, matte finish, IP68 dust and water resistant. I think the biggest change that they did was that, if you guys could see, the S21 Plus, it has more of a curve right here, and they went completely flat, but that's pretty much it. The hardware pretty much looks and feels the same for the most part, again, which I'm actually a fan of. I do like the hardware here. I do want to talk about speed here, because that was like one of the main questions here. Is the S21 Plus or the S22 Plus, is it noticeably slower? Is it laggier than an S24 and S23? And it's just not the case here at all. All these phones are running Android 14, and one of the speed tests and benchmark things, this is why I don't really like harp on them a lot, because in the real world they all are still pretty fast, even the oldest phone here, even though you see a big difference in benchmark scores. Now if you are an extreme power user, you will be able to see the difference in terms of heating and stuff like that, but besides that, these phones are perfectly fine for casual users, just playing a couple matches of Call of Duty, PUBG. The older phones still do a really good job. And yeah, I just didn't notice a difference as a lighter user. Now if you're playing Genshin all day and Call of Duty, you're just an actual real mobile gamer, then what you will notice is that these two phones, the battery life will take a much bigger hit than the S23 and S24. That's one thing that I noticed for sure. But overall, these phones are still perfectly smooth. They're still fast. They can still game. And you got to remember, these phones are pretty cheap, at least in the USA marketplace. And remember, these are Snapdragon models, guys. I can't get the Exynos models. But yeah, so overall performance wise, all of these phones are still really fast. Like I said, you get a performance bump every year, but if you're not like a power user, you're not really going to notice it at all. Alright, so for example, guys, so on the S21 Plus here, we do have HDR or Smooth Extreme. So we get the 90 frames on here, and it's still very smooth. And like I said, this phone is like a $200 phone. I got it in the used refurbished marketplace. This is very good for this price point to get this nice display and pretty good gaming settings. The only thing with these two phones is that the heating can be a little bit much for long periods of time. This phone will stay much cooler, this in the S23 Plus, and the 120 frames, you will notice it is a little bit more smoother. But like I said, you gotta actually be like a real mobile gamer to appreciate this, and you gotta be playing competitively. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter if you're a casual gamer. Alright guys, I want to talk about the software between these two, or these four devices here. So the thing that you guys will be hearing a lot for the next decade is going to be AI. So the S24 has the 7 years of majorOS updates. These do not. Now the S21 Plus will get its last majorOS update with Android 15, and you still have some updates on the S22 Plus and the S23 Plus. Now the Galaxy AI did not make its way to the S21 Plus. You only get the circle to search, which is actually a really handy feature. It's something that I actually really like. But that's pretty much it. Now the S22 Plus actually got it, so that's why I was really surprised, because I didn't think it was going to come down to this model here, but they did. And of course the S23 has it as well too, so you can enjoy the Galaxy AI features on the S22 series and up. And yeah, so that's one thing to know here about the software. So as software gets longer, I am guessing that, you know, people are going to keep their phones, you know, much longer, and you'll probably just have a lot of people just swapping the batteries out if you do get battery degraded, because that is a pretty long time, you know. And if you, what you got to remember is, I have a lot of questions about this. You can always, guys, just charge your phone. This is how I keep my devices with such good battery life. You can just hit maximum on here, charge your phone at 80%, and it'll really help the battery life throughout the years. So that's something that I would definitely do if you are, you know, going to keep your phone for a long time. You really want to charge to 80%. That right there has just helped with a lot of my devices. About the displays here. So with the Plus series, one thing that you will notice that's different from the Ultra series is that it does have a more of a curved display here. And I don't mean like a curved panel. They're all flat panels, but it's kind of curves at the edge, so it's not completely boxy like on the, you know, Ultra series. So this is something that I actually really like, and you know, more people just find this comfortable. And before Samsung went completely flat, people really were just buying these because they just wanted the bigger flat display. But Samsung has been making displays really well, and you don't really see much of a difference here at all from the S21 Plus and up here. One thing that I noticed is that the older Samsung displays are just a little bit more colorful. Even if you turn vividness up on the newer ones, they're still a little bit, it just looks a little bit more colorful, is one thing I noticed. The bezels are, you know, they keep shrinking, but the bezels look great on, you know, all of these, even the S21 Plus here. So not a lot has changed. The biggest change we got with the Plus model was really this display has 1440p, it's LTPO, and that's like the biggest change. The max brightness does, you know, it's going to keep getting, you know, brighter for outdoor use, which is good. But besides that, excellent displays on all of these. They look really great. And like I said, Samsung, even if they don't upgrade the display on the S25 model, the S25 Plus, it really doesn't matter at this point because the display is just so good. You know, they just kind of hit a peak with display quality. The speakers at max volume, we'll start with the S21. So you immediately notice a bass difference and overall louder sound when you get to the S23 Plus. These two sound kind of similar. Yeah, they just kind of sound a little bit flat compared to the S23. And then you do notice that the S24 Plus does sound a little bit louder than the S23. So we've actually got I think the S24 Plus, some of the best speakers that I have heard right under the S24 Ultra. Fantastic speakers, really good bass quality. So when we talk about the cameras here, in my opinion, the average person won't really notice too much of a difference. Yeah, there's going to be more detail on the S23 and S24 model, but you would have to really be like looking hard. You really don't see the actual difference until you get to the video and the overall low light photography, really. Besides that, you really don't see that big of a difference. Even when you're talking about the S21 model here, it still looks pretty good in daylight. It's still a really good looking camera. So even if I bring up like the bull picture right here, if I did like a blind test, most people, there's no way they could tell me which one was which. Because they just look extremely similar here. So that's why I said it's very minor differences when it comes to overall camera quality. But yeah, so I don't think the cameras have gotten that much better unless we're talking about slight improvements in video and low light. But besides that, you know, if you're taking pictures outdoors, it's sunny outside, or just eating kind of decent lighting, they'll kind of look similar. It's one thing that I noticed here. And lastly, I want to talk about battery life. I actually think this is the biggest upgrade this is the biggest difference. So with the S21 and S22, not bad battery life, but the S23 and S24 Plus, they're just so much better with standby time, and they're just so much better when it comes to gaming. The gaming performance is just a lot better when it comes to not completely draining the battery life and kind of heating up, and just overall screen on time is going to be better. So that is, you know, my opinion on the battery life. They don't really charge super fast like the Xiaomi phones. They all have wireless, reverse wireless charging, but the difference that you will notice is screen on time just in general, and overall standby time. If you are a power user, you know, you're not going to eat through the battery as fast. But that is pretty much it. Be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.